All right, last thing of the conference. You guys still awake? Yeah? That's cool. Great. So we're going to have some fun. I'm going to talk a little bit about, I'm going to tell stories mostly, actually. How many of you here get called Agile coaches? Yeah, people tend to accuse me of being that sometimes too. It started about maybe, I don't know, 12 years ago. People started saying, "You're an Agile coach." And I'm like, what is that? I'm still not sure. It's hard to describe to someone at a bar, like, what do I do? Like, oh, I'm an Agile coach. What? No, okay, forget that. I help companies improve. Like, well, what does that mean? I debug and refactor and optimize companies. What? I'm a management consultant. Whatever, I don't know. It's hard. So finally, I concluded that maybe change agent is the closest description of what I do and maybe what many of you guys do as well. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about what I've learned so far in this role as change agent and also what I mean by it. All right? So to me, being a change agent is not a role that you have. It's more an attitude. I'm going to do this complicated. I'm going to use both that and this. I'm probably going to get out of sync at some point. I don't know. But what I mean by that is change agent is, to me, a person who cannot help but to improve things. Always looking for ways to improve things. It's almost like an addiction or a habit. Some people look at the world and all they see is problems and then they complain about it, right? Just complain, complain, complain. I look at the world, all I see is problems, but then I try not to complain about it. I just try to help improve things. It's fun. Sometimes even, unimportant things like, oh, I want to get the perfect design of this castle in Minecraft, right? It's not even important. Or learn how to play a blues in a weird a key, C#. Like, how the heck do I do that? That's really tricky. I have to learn to do that. It's not important, but it's fun to improve. So how many of you share that kind of habit that you just want to improve things? You can't help yourself. Hand up. Would usually be quite a number of people, right? So the rest of you can go back to your email or your games or whatever. I'm primarily addressing other people who share this itch, right? Always want to improve things. Okay. So the golden question is, how do you change an organization, right? That's what everyone is asking. And I have a short answer and a long answer, okay? The short answer is you can't. Sorry. Do we still have more time? How much was it, an hour? Maybe we have time for questions? Right. Well, thank you very much anyway. It was great meeting you. So I assume you're still here because you kind of want the long answer? It's a really long answer. It's going to go on for like 50 minutes. Are you sure? Right. Okay. So the longer answer is a little bit contradictory. The short answer is you can't. The other short answer is it's easy. And I'm going to demonstrate it using a little exercise, all right? Go ahead and change yourself right now. Somehow. Turn your glasses upside down or cross your arms the other way. Just everybody change something on yourself. And I can see everybody, so nobody's getting away, right? Change something. Something simple or something radical, right? Let's see. Look around. You see change happening here and there, right? Yeah, you moved your hair to that side. Very bold move. I'm impressed. That's it. That's cool. Yeah, that wasn't so hard, was it? It wasn't terribly hard. Of course, the tricky bit is changing other people. So go ahead and change someone else. Don't be shy, you're among friends. Go ahead and change someone else. Right? Yeah, come on. You can do it. So, a bit trickier, right? A little bit, a little awkward. You're all laughing because it's kind of this awkward laughter, like, and, right? It's we just witnessed 3 changes now, 3 forms of change, right? one change thing that happened was you changed yourself. The second thing that also happened was you changed someone else. What was the third thing, that type of change that we also saw right now?
They changed it back.
I changed everybody. Ha ha! Got you, right? Change voodoo, right? Okay, so change is easy. The tricky part isn't making change happen. The tricky part is making it stick. So how many of you have already reverted back? Look around. You've all reverted back, right? You couldn't even keep it for 1 minute, right? So change is pretty easy, but making it stick is kind of hard. I find that change is also fairly easy if people want it, right? In fact, that's so important. I'm even going to put up a card about that. So change is easy if people want it. And here's that version, right? And if people don't want the change, it'll be a lot harder, right? What if I told you all, take off all your clothes? No, right. I'm not going to stop you, but the thing is, if people don't want to change, they won't, generally speaking, unless they are under threat or something, right? And the change will definitely not stick. So yeah, how do we change people? Well, basically, you don't change people. You can inspire them to change themselves. Does that make sense? You can inspire people, and maybe they'll change themselves. All right. Now, I'm sure you've seen this happen. You're at a company, and then as a coach or whatever, you help them introduce lots of cool stuff, and then you leave, and then everything goes right back to where it was. Hand up if you've seen that. Right? Wow, that's very, very common, yeah. I think of it as organizations have a muscle memory, kind of, and they gravitate towards status quo, because it's just, you know, there's a reason why the structure they had was there, for historical reasons, and they've built up all kinds of roles and processes. In fact, their current way of working was probably fine at some point in the past, and then why change it, right? So coming in as an outsider, or even an insider, causing change to happen is hard because organizations just tend to want to go back. So what can you actually do about that? Well, sometimes companies are forced. Sometimes it's like, oh, we're fine, we work the way we usually do, you know, we don't need to change here, we can't change here, we're too big company. Until the day this little startup shows up. And that little startup is stealing your business. They are running circles around you. Now this big company is panicking, and suddenly they make radical change. Really impressive sometimes seeing that happen. I worked a lot at Lego, and they had this thing that happened 12 years ago where they completely shifted the company. Because they didn't change product, but they shifted the way they worked because they were running out of money. They were getting too spread thin. And that was an existential crisis. If they did not change, they would have disappeared. There would be no more Lego. So that triggered change. Now, the best leaders don't wait for that moment, right? So companies that are really good at what they do, I find, they have change agents all over the place. In fact, leaders are expected to be change agents. And they're consistently challenging each other and their teams to be changing, even, you know, way before there was any kind of crisis. And not only that, they're also inspiring others to become change agents. So it's really a mindset and an attitude that needs to be cultivated. All right, so what do you do then? I mean, if you want to create this inspiration, you also need to create the practical environment to enable change to happen. And I'm going to illustrate that using a little exercise. I'm really not sure how it's going to pan out, but we'll give it a shot. All right? As part of that, I want to talk a little bit about comfort zones. Right? So how many of you here are okay with stepping out of your comfort zone sometimes? Hand up. Right? That's cool. That's just about everybody. That's great. Keep your hand up. Keep your hand up. Right? Now, take your hand down if you have no problem getting up on stage in front of a big audience. Keep your hand up if you find that a little bit uncomfortable, the thought of getting up on stage in front of a big audience. All right, cool. And I guess you know what I'm going to say next, right? So I would like 10 of those of you with hands up to get right up here on stage. And the rest of you prepare to give them a rock stadium applause, okay? Give it to them. Rock stadium. Come on. Bring it up. Yeah. 10 people. Whoa, stop. That's enough. Enough. Okay. Okay, this is good enough. Oh, my God. Jesus. Okay. I was planning for this exercise for 10 people, but you know, what the heck? We'll be agile about it, right?
Agile coaches.
Yeah, this is going to be a challenge. Now I'm out of my comfort zone. Thank you very much. Okay. You're going to need to turn so you can see this, right? Because this is your challenge. Okay, I'm going to give you a challenge. Ready? Oh, before I give you the challenge, I need to give them a job to do. Your job is going to be, you're going to be the stopwatch. You're going to be counting seconds. And to make it fun, you're going to be counting in your own home language. So when I go ready, set, go, you start counting seconds in your own home language. Let's practice. Ready, set, go. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, cool. Give them a hand. They're pretty good, right? Yeah, great. Yeah. Okay. So here's your challenge. Get the brick to everyone on the team, that's you, in alphabetical order by first name. And let me get the brick for you. So you got to pass this brick around. Everybody here got to get it, right? In alphabetical order by first name. Is that clear? Start counting. Ready, set, go.
Какая-то буковка чуть не получше. Окей, я где-то здесь.
Yeah. Oh! 60. Okay, 60 seconds. So, team, you think you can improve this result? Okay, ready, set, go. Count. Okay, done. Give him a hand. What? Still alphabetical order though, right? So how many seconds? 17. They improved their speed by a factor 3 and more, right? Pretty impressive. Okay, go ahead, do a little retrospective. Get in a ring, talk about how you can do this faster next time. Go ahead, get in a ring, talk to each other, right? We'll give them some time. You guys can talk to your neighbors about something you learned from the conference. Just They're getting very creative here. Cool. This is why we want small teams in Agile, right? It gets tricky. Yeah. Okay.
Потому что оно тогда вылетело и уже не будет публиковано. Надо, чтобы он пролетел.
Наши 2 руки, дайте одни
По кругу быстрее всего. Смотрите, вытягиваем по
одной руке по кругу, один бегает и касается всей одной руки.
Можно просто в ряд стать.
Красавчик.
Oh, check it out.
Теперь давайте
Okay. It's an experiment, right? Everything is an experiment,
Вы
right?
ставите одну руку и станьте
Right.
кружка так.
Tell me when you're ready, all right? Tell me when you're ready.
Have you seen that before?
Not telling.
Ближе, чтобы...
Okay, wait. We forgot the timer. Okay. Okay. Ready, set, go. 2 seconds. Thank you very much. You can have a seat again. Amazing. Thank you, my Lego. That's great. All right. Talk about improvement, right? These people get up and they hate getting up on stage. They get up and they do this thing and they do a retrospective and they improve by a factor 30, right? Okay. What were the conditions that were put in place to enable that to happen? Communication. They were given time to talk, right? A shared goal, a clear shared goal in this case. Highly motivated. Why would they be highly motivated to pass a brick around? Is that intrinsically motivating? I don't know. Scream. Commitment. Why were they committed? What? It's fun. Passing bricks around in a circle is fun. I don't know if that was the key thing, you know. But there's a number of things, right? There's a number of things. And commitment, right? Yes, they were committed because they were on stage. So that does mean something. A clear goal, the ability to retry, right? They were given multiple chances. And it was a safe environment. It wasn't like they'd be punished for being slow. It's like, hey, try again. You know, have a retrospective. So all these things are things you can do as a change agent. You can put the conditions in place to enable improvement to happen. It's not always going to work, but you can maximize the odds, right? But for that to work, you need to be willing to slow down. Slow down to speed up. Because what if this team was so stressed that they did not have time for a retrospective, right? What if we just said you have to deliver all the time, right? They'd be sitting there passing the brick like crazy, and it would be really slow. So a really important thing as a change agent is to teach your organization. You've got to make the space so that people can sit down and actually talk. Make the space to try new ideas, even if you don't know they're going to work. And if they fail, well, what the heck? That's just the price of innovation, right? We try something else. So yeah, create safety. So as change agent, as I think I already mentioned, you work at two levels. You are both causing change to happen. You are putting these conditions in place, but you are also infecting other people with the same disease that you have. Right? Because if you don't, then it doesn't scale, right? If you come in and you're all enthusiastic, causing change to happen, then you leave, well, what's going to happen now, right? So you better make sure that this attitude, this change attitude needs to spread. And the best way I know to make that happen is by pairing. So basically never work alone. Always work together with someone else in one way or another. And then indirectly you will be teaching the change agent mindset, but also some of the practical tools, things like, you know, retrospectives, etc. Okay, so let's see. Yeah, there is a problem with the change agent mindset. You want to fix everything, right? You want to improve everything. The problem is there's only one you, right? And the list of potential problems to fix is infinite. So infinite backlog of problems and a finite you equals stress sometimes, right? I don't know how many of you recognize this feeling, but Sometimes people like us that work as change agents struggle with depression and burnout and stress. Does anybody recognize that feeling? We want to fix everything, right? Come on, we want to fix everything. And of course, the list never ends. So that's one of those things where we need to work with our own minds, right? To just accept that, you know what, there's going to be tons of problems that don't get fixed today. And guess what? That's perfectly fine. I'm going to sleep well anyway. So to me, it's really about not owning the problem. If I'm helping a team or a client or anybody, I'm not going to own their problem. It may get fixed or it might not. I'm not going to let it into my heart, right? I used to do that in the past. I used to be more like really engaged in the problem at hand, which meant that whenever I fail, which of course happens, right, then that became really, really hard to kind of accept. Now it's much easier for me because I help out, I do what I can, and if it didn't work, well, it didn't work, then we just try the next thing, right? So, and this is also something you need to spread to the team. It's a good way to tackle complaints, right? Let's say we have a team, we ask them, what are the biggest impediments for you, right? What's in your way? Maybe a list of 20 things, right? Okay, let's vote. Which 3 of these things are most in your way and most important to solve? They vote, maybe dot vote or something. Quick analysis, and you decide on these are the top 3 impediments. Okay. Out of these top 3 impediments, which one are we going to try to solve right now? You pick one. If you don't know how to pick it, bring up a dice. It doesn't matter. Just pick one. And what do you do with the rest? Ignore, right? Ignore the rest. Fix it or accept it, right? Those other problems later, or maybe never. It's a very useful mindset to have, and also to spread, to tell everybody that yes, we have a problem with our crappy build server, and you know what, we're going to do nothing about it right now, we're just going to live with it, so don't worry, don't bother complaining. And the reason why we're not solving that problem is because we're solving this problem, which is bigger and more important, right? Very powerful way of looking at things. Okay, sometimes when you're trying to help solve some kind of a problem, you just keep working and keep struggling and you never get anywhere. I think it kind of like, a wall with strings. This is a very silly metaphor, but think of a wall with strings, right? You can pull the strings. Each string is a problem that you want to help solve. You don't know what's going to happen when you pull the string, right? Is it going to come right out? You solve the problem immediately? It was really simple. Like, for example, I've seen cases where, you know, the root cause of the problem was the team is spread in different rooms. We put them in the same room, and ta-da, like magic, half of their problems just disappear. So that was like one of those simple little strings. Other times, you're like trying to pull the string, and you're just standing there all the time trying to fix it, and nothing happens. And it can feel kind of like you're beating a dead horse, right? So don't do that. Notice when that's happening, and then stop. And that doesn't mean you should just give up as soon as you get resistance. But at some point, notice, be self-aware enough to realize that, you know what, this problem does not want to be solved right now, apparently, for some reason. Maybe it's not the most important problem after all. Or maybe it's too tough a problem right now. Maybe the timing is wrong. I don't know. But yeah, move on, right? Put that problem on the other list. And it's a little bit scary because those strings, right? You're pulling these strings. Sometimes you pull one and out comes a dragon and goes, tries to eat you. So so I think of it as a change agent. You're just trying these strings to see what happens. Which one, where can I make a big difference? Now, I noticed something, especially when I spent a lot of time at Spotify, that after many years, I would often have some main problem I'm trying to solve, right? Some #1 issue I'm trying to help fix. Sometimes making progress, but sometimes really not. Because the reason why I picked the problem is because it's important and sometimes rather complex, cut across organizational boundaries. So we're working on it, and obviously never alone. You normally really can't do much at all as a change agent if you work alone. So working with other people, trying to inspire them, right? Creating this space to experiment. But yet, week after week, not really making progress. So real life example, I had that situation. I don't remember what problem I was trying to help solve. But then at some point, I was just walking by the coffee machine, and I happened to talk to somebody there, a tribe leader. And he's like, you know, Henrik, in our tribe, we have a challenge. Our team's structure isn't really working anymore because we've outgrown it. So can you suggest like a good team structure? And we talked a little bit, and finally I suggested, hey, you know, how about the idea of the teams self-organize their team structure based on the work at hand? And you can redo that on a regular basis. So you get kind of dynamic team structure. And he's like, that's interesting. Do you have any examples? So I sent him an article, I think. And that was just a 10-minute conversation. But then he went ahead and tried it, and it worked really well. So then it spread to other tribes as well. And apparently, that was the right solution at that time to that problem. I had no idea. So I was spending weeks trying to solve problem A, and I spent 10 minutes not even trying to solve problem B, and that like made a huge difference. So in the beginning, I was kind of feeling bad about that. I'm like, wow, I'm not in control of things. Until one day I realized that, yeah, that's it. I'm not in control of things. It was like realizing that, and I don't need to be in control of things because that kind of control is an illusion. So now I think of it more like, as a change agent, it's good to be focused. It's good to pick a few problems to focus on, but don't get over-focused. I think of it as planting seeds, right? Throw seeds around randomly, right? Every time you interact with somebody, you're planting a seed. If you send a link to an article, planting a seed. Running a workshop is planting a seed. And all these are kind of, I think of them as kind of like agile seeds, so you don't know which ones are going to sprout, right? Some are going to work out, some not. Some might work out nicely, and then they die after a year. It's out of my hands, but I just keep planting. Sometimes I get surprised by what I see. So that's also one of those good anti-stress mechanisms, right? Plant the seeds and then see what happens. Sometimes you need to add some water or some light, right? Okay, and that kind of begs the question, okay, if I'm just this weird guy going around planting seeds, how do I know if I'm adding any value, right? How many of you have gotten that question? Like, how do you know that you are adding value, right? Any answers? Analysis. So suppose I'm a coach type person, and I go to a team, and let's say I introduce Scrum. I help them get going with Scrum. And then after I leave, we look at the results. The team is happier, they're delivering faster, and they're delivering better quality, objectively measured. Would you say that that was a successful engagement for me as a coach? Yeah? You have no idea. Maybe they would have done even better if I wasn't there. You have no idea, right? Or maybe they would have done the same if I wasn't there. So the only way you can know is if you can somehow create this parallel universe where you didn't interact with the team and then do an A/B test and compare. You can't. So you really don't know. So, or maybe I came into the team and then everything went south, right? Just crashed. They might have crashed anyway. Maybe they would have crashed even worse if I wasn't there. So at the end of the day, you don't know. You can guess, you can get a sense. So I've just given up on that. It's not important to me anymore to measure, to know exactly was this my contribution or not, right? I'm planting seeds and I'm watering, but guess what? Lots of other people are also planting seeds and watering and stuff. So when we look at the result, was that because of me or was it despite me? I don't know and don't really care. But what I do care about is, are people happy to have me around? So I think the closest equivalent to knowing if you're adding value is, do people want to have you around? Are they happy to have you there? In that case, you're probably doing something right. However, maybe they don't want you around. Maybe they're saying, you know what, we don't need help right now, we're fine. What does that mean? Well, it could mean that you're just an annoying person who doesn't help the team. Or it could mean that you are awesome, but they don't need your help right now. Again, can't really tell the difference. So give up on measuring exactly what your contribution is. And in fact, I would recommend this attitude. Right? It's a team game. It's a number of people involved. The whole idea with a cross-functional team is we kind of mix the roles up a little bit, right? It's no longer obvious exactly whose code was that or whose decision was this, or we don't really know. We look at the team result, not individual results. So that goes for you as well as a change agent. Okay. Funny story. At Lego, after about a year and a half going there frequently, my contract was gonna get extended, and I wanted some feedback. So I met a bunch of people, and I just showed them a list this is the type of stuff I've been doing here. Been running workshops, doing inspirational talks, standing in front of a whiteboard, doing problem solving, asking stupid questions. Just made this list of stuff. And I asked people, what's most valuable, do you think? What should I be doing more in the future, do you think? So I always got the same answer. What do you think the answer was? The answer wasn't whatever. It was one of those items I listed for you. It was actually the fourth item there. It was asking stupid questions. They all told me that, yeah, all this other stuff you do is valuable too, but, you know, asking stupid questions, that's the most valuable. Like, whoa, okay, so that's very interesting. You know, things like, we're sitting here arguing about quality, but what do we mean by quality? How will we know when we have it? Like, Or why are we organized this way? What led us to that? What are we optimizing for when we're organized in this way? It's these kind of questions that are easier to ask when you come from the outside and you're not part of the system, right? But even if you're embedded inside an organization no matter what your official role is, right? Again, change agent is an attitude, not a role. Just asking those rather naive, stupid questions. Don't be shy. They're usually very valuable, even if they can feel a little bit embarrassing. But again, if you skip the ego part, it gets a lot easier to ask those stupid questions. I was really kind of worried there when I just came to that engagement. My first day at Lego, I did something that I thought would get me kicked out. I had just interviewed a bunch of teams to learn about what they're doing and what their challenges are. And then I ended up in a war room where a bunch of managers were discussing the status of things. So there was one of those status boards with red and green and yellow flags. And they went through all the different projects, and it was mostly green. I had just interviewed the teams. I knew the real story. So as they finished the meeting, they asked me, the new guy, like, hey, so what do you think? You know, any thoughts around this meeting? And before I could stop myself, I said, this thing you call the project board sounds to me more like a bullshit board. And I was like, shit, did I just say that? And they totally burst out laughing. They're like, you know, that was the elephant in the room. This is a bullshit board. This is just a ceremony. Let's talk about the real problems. So yeah, sometimes it takes this kind of naive, childlike change agent to come in and like, hey, what's going on here? Okay. So you're probably wondering about the stupid toaster. So let's get it over with. I'm going to talk about the pitfall, which we often fall into. The pitfall is solving symptoms rather than solving problems. And I'll illustrate that using an example. So let's say we have a team, right? And their job is to make toast, okay? It's a very silly metaphor, but, you know, bear with me, right? Their job is to make toast. And the problem is their toast looks like that, right? Burnt toast. So they release this, and then their product is not very appreciated by their customers. So, and the sales are going down, and it's a problem. So finally, a manager shows up and says, you know, we need to do something about this. So he brings in a consultant, of course, because that's what you do when you have a problem, right? Bring in a consultant. And the consultant comes in and says, I know what it is. You guys have a quality problem. The manager's like, yes, and the reason why you have a quality problem is because you don't have quality control. How could you get quality if you don't have quality control? Sounds pretty sensible, doesn't it? Right? So we need to introduce quality control. All right, quality control. This is quality control team, right? They receive this product from that team. They test it. Right? Not good. Right. Right. Go. Not good, but better. Ship it. All right. This happens, right? This happens. We have teams that do this. We have organizations that work this way. And technically, Jesus, wait. Whose stupid idea was this? Technically, we fixed the problem though, right? It's a better product. The customers are not going to complain as much about this anymore, right? So we could say, great consultant. He introduced quality control. Quality went up. Great, happy story. But guess what? You just solved the symptom, right? You solved the symptom, burnt toast. You didn't fix the root cause. So now you've made the problem permanent, right? Now we have a longer cycle time. It's got to go through this team. This team is not incentivized to care about quality at all because look here, we have people that fix it. Maybe they hand it back to the team and they have to do the scraping, but it's the same story. And then, of course, this team is paid to scrape toast, so they're not incentivized to get better toast, right? They want this burnt toast or else they lose their job. So now you've really created a problem. So, rewind. What would we prefer? How would we fix the root cause of the problem without quality control? What does this team need to do? Let me give you a hint what the team should be doing. They should eat toast every day, right? They should be, or maybe it's a product that they don't consume. Maybe it's a product that, let's say they're building an expert system for doctors, right? They're not the user. So they release to doctors, but the team should go out and watch users using their product, right? Watch the doctor cry and scream at your software, right? Watch the customer cry eating your toast, right? And then, of course, now the team is incentivized to make better toast, and they're going to start exploring that. And they might learn something interesting. The customer would like to have something on the toast. Maybe some jam, some butter, right? So they start exploring that, and now suddenly you're building better product. So I'm not saying we shouldn't have testers, just that the tester would be on the team, of course, helping them make better toast, not just scraping, right? So yeah, that's an example of a pitfall. Avoid being a toast scraper. Don't be a toast scraper. Okay. So, again, how do you make change happen? Here's another good trick that I learned from a guy named Jerry Weinberg, who I consider a mentor. He died just a few weeks ago, which is very sad. I would say about half of everything I'm talking about here I learned from Jerry. And one of those things is don't sell solutions, sell problems. When you're talking to a team, it's very tempting to want to, convince them to do Agile or whatever that means, right? Start doing Scrum or XP or Kanban. You have this solution in mind. And resist doing that. Think about, well, what problem am I trying to solve, actually? And sell the problem instead, right? So in this case, I might, instead of trying to convince the customer to build a bridge, I might help them see that the river is a barrier, it's in the way. And once they agree that it's a barrier, then they're motivated to talk about how might we get over the barrier. And maybe your original idea, a bridge, wasn't the best solution anyway, right? What are some other ways to solve the river problem? Boat is already up there, right? What other ways? Shuttle, plane, right? Get more creative. Cannonball, yeah. Now we're getting there, yeah. You dig a tunnel, change the course of the river, right? Why do we need to cross the river? That's a good question too. Maybe there's because the business department is on the other side. Maybe we should all just move there or move them over here. Just, explore the nature of the problem. Don't just try to push your solution. Because if you do that, if you sell solutions rather than problems, you'll get, well, it'll be easier to cause change to happen because now you get, people get inspired and they want the change. But you'll also find better solutions, right? Better solutions than maybe you thought. So back to the ego thing. You're probably not the smartest person in the room. It's very unlikely, especially if it's a big room. Right? So help sell the problem and then unleash all these wonderful brains around you, and people normally have really interesting solutions to things. And I guess as part of that, make things visible. The more visible, the better. Right? I struggled with coming up with a metaphor. My wife helped me with this one. So basically, yeah, this person, I've been trying to convince him for a long time that he needs to extinguish his hat. but he was resisting. I brought up a fire extinguisher to shoot at him, and he's like, get that away from me, right? Finally, I just showed him a mirror, and he's like, give me the fire extinguisher. So holding up the mirror, making problems visible. It could be, for example, doing a burn-up chart on an existing project. And you can show that in the current velocity, we're never going to make it, right? Or customer satisfaction is going down. Or you have this wonderful product, but you have a team that is depressed and burned out. Make that data visible. Try, right? Whatever it is, make it super visible. Sometimes you may be surprised, right? When I show this guy this mirror, I expect him to go, I gotta extinguish my hat. But what might happen instead? He might break the mirror. Stupid mirror. Could be. Yeah, I like my hat. This is a fashion statement. Could be, right? Yeah, or maybe, you know, this is a problem, but I have another problem that's more important right now, so let's just leave that thing alone. So yeah, make things visible and then see what happens, right? Super powerful. But I would say that's probably the most powerful way to create the want for change and to inspire people. As part of that, also learn to ask. It's something, I don't know why it's so hard. It took me probably 7-8 years before I realized that it's a good idea to ask people if they want help before you actually help them. Why is that so hard to realize? I was really surprised. Like, that seems kind of obvious, doesn't it? Yet I spent so many years not doing that. So ask people. If you're going to work with a team or somebody and you're trying to help them, just take a step back, especially if you notice resistance, right? Say, do you want help with this? Because if not, I won't bother you. Because, you know, life is too short to waste trying to help people who don't want help. So there's another Jerry Weinbergism. Don't inflict help on people. Right? This guy was perfectly happy swimming around in the water. And here I am with a life, you know, what's it called? Lifesaver. Like, boom. What problem am I trying to solve here? My own fear. He doesn't have a problem, but he's happy. That guy, right? So what I'm actually, I'm pretending that I'm solving his problem, but actually I'm solving my own problem, which is maybe fear or lack of control or something. So be clear about what problem am I really trying to solve now, and whose problem is it? Because if it's only my problem, let's not inflict that on other people, right? So it's a very simple question to ask. Would you like help with this? Okay. As an external consultant, someone who comes in from the outside, we cheat. And what I mean by that is when a client calls me, they already want to change. Otherwise, they wouldn't have called, right? So it's easier for consultants. At least that person wants change. Maybe nobody else wants change in his organization, but and then it still gets tricky. But if you're internal, then it's harder because maybe you weren't asked. You know, I'm a developer on this team, and now I'm going to cause change, but nobody asked me to drive any change. So now you have to do a lot more work. You have to make the problem visible, influence people in a whole other way. So I think that's really important to acknowledge. But there's another really weird thing. How many of you know about the out-of-town consultant syndrome? That sound familiar? Yeah, the out-of-town consultant syndrome, what's that? Yeah, it only lasts for a while, right? It's when an external consultant comes in and says something of profound wisdom, like, how about cross-functional teams? And everyone's like, wow, that was a really good idea. Thank you. And of course, people in the team are like, we've been asking for this for years. And now this idiot comes in from outside, says exactly the same thing, and now all the managers listen. Right? How many recognize that problem? It's really common, right? It just seems to be a fact of life. I can't really explain it, but use it. Use it shamelessly. Right? So sometimes when I come into an organization, I go find the teams and I ask them, what is it you've been trying to get these guys to do for years? What should I say? Cross-functional teams. Right? It works. Right? And if you're the other guy, if you're the guy in the team, dump your ego somewhere and call that external guy and just say, you know, can you just pair up with me to say what I've been saying all along, and they'll listen to you because you're an external guy. That's what I mean by using it shamelessly. It's sad, but what the heck, we use whatever tools we can, right? Okay, that's dirty trick of the day. And that's also a nice example of pairing. Don't work alone. As an external person and an internal person, it's a great couple. Because the internal person knows how things work, knows who to talk to, right? Knows where to go, knows what people are talking about, but doesn't have as much credibility for being an insider, unfortunately. It's unfair, but it's just fact of life, right? The external guy has maybe the credibility of being a new voice, but doesn't really know the way around the organization. Put these two together, magic. It's great. Plus, then when you leave as an external person, this other person locally will kind of continue. So it's great. Pairing. When it comes to organizational change, I noticed another dirty trick. So ready for dirty trick number 2? People hate organizational change, generally. That seems to be the hardest sell. But people normally don't mind experiments as much. So, yeah, if I have this vision that this team should get together and work as a cross-functional team, I wouldn't go and say, let's change the organization. I would say, let's try an experiment. It's easier. Let's just move into the same room for a while. Oh, no, we're not changing the organization. No, we're not doing that. We're just taking our chairs and going into this room here. You still report to the same manager as before, etc. And do that, and then you may notice that, oh my God, this was a lot better, a lot faster, a lot more fun. And then suddenly you've unleashed the inspiration and the desire to change, and now it's a lot easier, right? So in some cases, I've seen major organizational change happen, although I didn't do anything except start that experiment and then just back out. And then bam, all this stuff happened that I never would have been able to cause otherwise. So that's a very nice trick. At Spotify, we have, or used to have, I'm not at Spotify anymore, this thing called Hack Week, which is, it's everybody gets together for a whole week and just does hacking. And that started as an experiment. I would never have been able to sell that idea, convincing the management and saying, let's take all 1,500 employees and do 1 week of hacking and then have a party at the end. It wouldn't have worked. But the idea of, let's try an experiment here. All the teams are doing hacking anyway, and it becomes an alignment problem if this team is having a hack day and they need something from them. So how about we just try once to do it together, just within development, just within tech and product. And let's try, and if we don't like it, we can go back to the way we normally do things. So they're like, okay, let's give it a shot. And it turned out to be really effective, and lots of innovation happened, and it was a good thing. So then, you know, the next time we did the whole company for a week, and then this became institutionalized. It became a habit. But it would have been impossible to sell this from the beginning as a, hey, twice per year, let's get everybody to do a hack week. Wouldn't have worked. So yeah, definitely sell experiments. And when you do that, find volunteers, right? Who wants to participate? It's hard to force people, right? But if you ask, hey, who wants to try this idea of working in a cross-functional team? Or who wants to try this idea of doing sprints? Or trying Kanban? Or whatever it is, right? Portfolio level Kanban. Whatever it is, find volunteers. And then once they've tried it, and if it works, then you've learned something and it'll probably spread. If it didn't work, it won't spread and you still learned something, right? Okay. There's a really useful technique, another one, by the way, which I call get the right people into the room. This has happened several times. I come to an organization and they're like, our biggest problem is X. So then, and I have no idea how to solve this problem, but I can find out who's involved. So I can find out, you know, who is suffering under this problem, who might be able to do something about it. Let's say the problem is how we do, how we interact between Department A and Department B, right? And there's like crashes. Right, so get a few people from here, get a few people from there involved into a room. And then invite them. Just say, hey, let's talk about this problem. And once you get this group of people, stakeholders, into the room, ask them the question, like, I hear we're having huge problems with the interaction between these two departments. Would you agree? And that's really important to check. Because what if they say, no, there's no problem? Well, guess what? You need to sell the problem before you sell solutions, right? So if they don't agree that the problem is a problem, then that's your biggest problem. But normally, by the time you get that far, yeah, they'll say, yes, it's a big problem. Next question is, do you want to solve it? It might sound silly to ask, but it's important because maybe they agree that it's a big problem, but you know, they have other problems that are more important right now. Or we're kind of busy with other stuff. We're not willing to spend time on this right now. Check that, right? Because again, don't inflict help on people. If they don't want help right now, don't bother. So anyway, question number 1, do you agree this is a problem? Yes, we do. Do you want to solve it? Yes, we do. Okay, question number 3, what do you think it would take to solve it? Right. Okay, if it's a complex problem, you might want to do a little bit of root cause analysis and things like that, right? Like in the toast situation. But generally speaking, take it to the team. Ask the people in the room, what do you think it would take to fix this problem? And surprisingly often, they have awesome ideas. In fact, the reason why they have this problem in the first place is because they've never been together in this particular combination of people. That's why they got the problem. So your biggest job sometimes as a change agent is just get the right people into the room and then back out of the way, let them figure out the solution. Surprisingly powerful. You know this thing about Scrum, right? Scrum is a framework, so you can use it for different types of things. You can use it to build a product. And of course, you can also use it to actually run organizational change, so that's very powerful. So in some cases, when I get a group like this together, I'm like, you guys are like some kind of virtual team now, because you're all in different departments, right? But how about we Scrum this problem now, right? Because you just came up with 3 possible solutions. Let that be this sprint. And then every week we'll have a synchronization meeting just to check how we're doing, and every month we'll get everyone together into the room again to check, so did it work? If not, what are we going to try next? Basically using a kind of Scrum-ish approach to solve the problem itself. Very powerful. Anybody tried something like that? Scrumming the problem itself? Yeah. Very powerful technique. An interesting question when it comes to problems, though, is what is definition of done in that case? When are you done? Right? Let's say the problem is we have trouble collaborating with the customer. Okay, well, when are we done? It's never going to be perfect, right? So one technique I like to use sometimes is in the organization, you get a cross-section of the company together and you vote what are the biggest impediments for our department, for our company, whatever. Vote, identify the top 3, right? Now we have the top 3 impediments. A, really bad user stories. B, people hate coming to work. C, our offices have really bad air. Okay. When are we done? Well, I'd say definition of done enough is when the problem is no longer top 3, right? So we improve our stories, maybe we fix the top problem, we start improving that. Next time we get together and talk about the biggest problems, maybe that one's no longer top 3, it's down here. Either because we improved it or because something else popped up. Well, it's done enough, right? We focus on something else, right? That way you don't get stuck beating a dead horse, because you can always improve, right, on one thing. So yeah, lots of little tricks. I'm going to start wrapping up here. The ultimate trick is when you've been working for a long time trying to make things better, and you keep failing. Right? There's a final trick in your back pocket, and it's called the law of 2 feet. How many of you know about the law of 2 feet? Often used at conferences. Law of 2 feet says if you're not learning or contributing or having fun, I added the having fun part. If you're not learning or contributing or having fun where you stand right now, use your 2 feet. And go somewhere else where you can learn or contribute and have fun, right? So again, life is too short to beat a dead horse. Life is too short to help people who don't want help. Life is too short to help companies that seem to be hell-bent on dying. Get out of their way, let them die in peace. And, you know, focus on companies that want to succeed. Because, you know, there are plenty of those companies around, right? Find them. They will appreciate you better, and you'll be a happier person, right? Okay. So, some final words here. I think of what would be the essence of being a good change agent, and I would probably summarize it as be brave, because if you're really scared of stepping on people's toes, you're not going to be a very effective change agent, because no matter what you change, somebody's going to probably be a bit upset by it, even if only temporarily. And plus, you don't know if your solution is going to work, right? Maybe we introduced cross-functional teams, and it got worse. Like, oh my God, all these other times we introduced cross-functional teams, and it worked like a charm because that's what the Agile books say, and then here it didn't. Guess what? That's reality for you, right? You know the whole no silver bullets thing? Yeah, that one, right? There's no silver bullets, no guaranteed solutions. So you don't know if what you're doing is going to work, but you need to do it anyway. And that's what I mean by being brave, right? Be humble. Again, you're not the smartest person in the room. And if you act as if you are, you're not going to be very effective. So be humble. Realize that your past experiences are useful, but they don't give you the absolute answer. And there's going to be other people in the room who have really great ideas. You should listen to them, right? So be brave, be humble, realize that we're all in a learning journey. And of course, stay curious. Because it seems like, in my case, no matter how much I do this, I always get surprised in some cases, like, oh, that's interesting. This thing worked here that never worked anywhere else. What can I learn from that, right? So, plus it's quite fun. I think it's a fun way to look at the world, always being curious. Yeah, that's it. This, in the school book kind of description of what a good talk should be like, there should be just a few learning points, right? 3 or 4. I have 16 for you, so pick any ones you want. Pick your own 3 or 4. Thank you very much.